Remember that crazy conspiracy theory about the lab origin of COVID? Remember how anyone who talked about it was ridiculed, demonized, and cancelled?
He's also pushing U.S. intelligence to find evidence for this theory that the virus was accidentally released from a lab in Wuhan. That's his new angle to feed the wingnuts, to treat this virus like it was a conspiracy of some kind.
I know, right? What kind of nutcase would even suggest that a lab in Wuhan working on coronaviruses would have anything whatsoever to do with the emergence of a coronavirus that originated in Wuhan?
It should have never happened. This plague should never have happened. It could have been stopped. But people chose not to stop it.
What people? Tomorrow he'll blame the Spanish flu on Antonio Banderas.
Thank God prominent alternative news sites that circulated this insane premise were banned by big tech. Thank God Facebook, for over a year after the outbreak of COVID, banned all content suggesting the virus was man-made or came from a lab. Thank God brave mainstream media journalists identified and targeted shameless conspiracy theorists for pushing these lies. Thank God Dr. Fauci moved to silence any discussion of COVID being caused by a lab leak, after being told to do so by Peter Daszak, the father of gain-of-function research, whose organisation has extensive ties to the Wuhan lab. Thank God our esteemed medical establishment, in coordination with Silicon Valley and big pharma-funded corporate media giants,
CNN Tonight, brought to you by Pfizer,
worked so hard and so diligently to suppress and extinguish the dangerous conspiracy theory that COVID-19 came from a lab leak in China.
Tonight, NBC News learning the Department of Energy has concluded COVID-19 likely came from a lab leak in China.
Oh.
The U.S. Department of Energy has concluded that it most likely came from a lab leak and not from an infected animal.
The FBI and now the Energy Department have both found an accidental lab leak increasingly plausible.
Right, so not a crazy conspiracy theory then. At what point does the claim that it had a natural origin become a conspiracy theory?
No matter what the Energy Department says, not everyone in the government agrees. You see, while the Department of Energy suspects it was a lab leak, 4 other agencies, along with a national intelligence panel, still judge that the pandemic was likely the result of a natural transmission. Anyway, we'll have more on this story as soon as anyone has anything they can prove.
I mean, if you're that wedded to a certain narrative, sometimes it's really hard to let go.
This has been a long time coming. I wish you could see the smiles on the faces of my audience. And I wish I could too, because they're still wearing masks.
Funny how the US media once called Americans conspiracy theorists for saying it came from a lab. Now China is calling the US government conspiracy theorists for saying it came from a lab. Maybe the real lesson here is staring us in the face. Stop claiming everything that deviates slightly from the official story is a baseless conspiracy theory. Stop silencing whistleblowers, dissidents, and investigators by branding them dangerous purveyors of disinformation. Stop banning people for engaging in legitimate discussion of contentious issues. Now, forgive me for dabbling in another dangerous conspiracy theory, but it's almost like all the hysteria over fake news, disinformation and misinformation generated by the powers that be, while there is no doubt some fake news that's outright fabricated, isn't primarily designed to protect people from being misled, but is actually designed to shut down discussion of awkward truths and facilitate the cover-up of genuine matters. This all begs the question, if this once crazy lab leak conspiracy theory, which you weren't even allowed to talk about without being publicly shamed, censored, banned, turned out to be likely true, what else that was happening during this period that they maligned as a conspiracy theory was actually true? Gee, I wonder. I really do wonder. What else is happening right now that we're not allowed to talk about, that later on down the line will prove to have been true all along? Even if the lab leak theory is finally accepted as complete fact, was it really just an accidental leak? Whoops, just initiated a global pandemic that shut down the world economy, generated recurring mega-massive profits for giant pharmaceutical companies,
brought to you by Pfizer,
normalized de facto medical martial law while justifying authoritarian population control measures not witnessed for generations. Yeah, sorry about that, my bad. Appearing on Tucker Carlson last night, a Chinese virologist dropped a bombshell.
I would say, based on on the evidence and the source I have, CCP government intentionally to let it go all over the world to kill millions of people all over the world later.
No doubt that'll be dismissed as just another crazy conspiracy theory. As for the future, well, UK health experts are now sharing details of their, quote, COVID-style plans against bird flu. They're now preparing for the worst-case scenario of avian flu becoming transmissible from humans to humans. It's already jumped from birds to mammals. Now, a dozen people in the same province in Cambodia have been infected, and an 11-year-old girl has died. Thankfully, if H5N1 feels like getting all pandemic-y, we're reassured that Big Pharma has all the vaccines ready and waiting.
Brought to you by Pfizer.
And what of those COVID-style plans to stop it? Lockdowns, mask mandates, vax mandates? Well, rest assured, because Professor Lockdown, the same guy whose spectacularly wrong modelling greased the skids for the UK's lockdown, the guy who took lockdown so seriously, he spent most of it zipping back and forth across London to shag his married mistress, the guy who completely betrayed his own authoritarian zeal by saying, quote, China is a communist one-party state, we said. We couldn't get away with lockdown in Europe, we thought. Then Italy did it, and we realised we could. Yeah, him, well, at least he's not in charge of the COVID-style plans against bird flu, right? Oh, he is! Great. How wonderful. I really hope the conspiracy theorists stop being proven right.